Thank you so much for tuning into my show, William Wallace for America. I appreciate the time that you are spending with me. Today's show is brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Switch your cell phone service to a company that loves America as much as you and I do. Go to patriotmobile.com/WWFA. They have competitive rates and superior service because they use all of the carrier lines. Today's episode is about birthright citizenship or the 14th Amendment. Maybe it's just a timeline of the 14th Amendment or birthright citizenship. Either way, I'm trying to do this in the spirit of what the founding fathers wanted, because isn't that what we all want when we talk about our Constitution and our constitutional rights and what the founding fathers wanted? But there's a little discrepancy, in my opinion, and I'm just being honest here. When we talk about the 14th Amendment, where they're getting birthright citizenship from, and we talk about that, they should not have birthright citizenship because of what it says in the 14th Amendment. There's people who argue it in favor of it, saying it's there in the 14th Amendment, and there's people who argue against it, saying it's really not in the 14th Amendment. Either way, I'm going to go back in the Wayback Machine, back through time, that is, and talk about some things that I'm going to interpret from the sentiment of the founding fathers. Either way, I'm not trying to convince you that I'm right, nor do I claim to have the facts. What I like to do is go back, observe things, read things, do a little research, and maybe bring out some things that are standing out to me as things that I don't normally hear, that I think might be good for interpretation by you, by me bringing it up to you. Either way, I'm going to read the 14th Amendment for just a second. I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm going to hit the highlights. All persons born or naturalized in the United States. Now, I want you to keep in mind, the 14th Amendment was done in 1868. You're going to hear me refer to the Naturalization Act in 1790, I think it was, actually 1788. I'm going to go over that in a minute more specifically, so forgive me if I'm wrong there. Either way, they're about 100 years apart, was the point that I was trying to make. The Naturalization Act is what our elected officials used for the first 100 years pertaining to immigration. And then they came up with the 14th Amendment, which many people try to hang their hat on, especially Democrats, in saying that we have birthright citizenship. And I'm going to go through this a little bit more details. I'm going to jump around a little bit, so you'd have to hang on here for a second, because there's just way too many things that I want to bring up that are interconnected, not connected, and they don't have a specific order that they can be put in. So it's kind of like a shotgun blast. Either way, 14th Amendment. All persons born or naturalized in the United States, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without the process or without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Now, for those of you who say, oh, why'd you read the 14th Amendment? You might know what they tell you it's about, but this is not the founding fathers speaking. This is the 14th Amendment. And many say that it pertains to what was going to give black slaves the right to citizenship. So they think it's more of a post-slavery way to give citizenship to people that were here. Now, what I question is, Section 2 of the 14th Amendment talks about representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers. it goes into something that's not even birthright or citizenship oriented. Then it goes in number 3, no person shall be a senator or a representative in Congress. So it goes into something else completely different from birthright citizenship. To number 4, the validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment or pension. Then number 5 goes back to the Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. My point in talking about the 14th Amendment, because it was a hodgepodge of things almost. It starts out with birthright citizenship, and many think it pertains to Reconstruction after the Civil War for slaves, and then it goes into other things. I contend that the 14th Amendment was almost like the first omnibus bill, created to kind of get a bunch of things slammed in there. Hey, we got all these issues. While we got all you guys agreeing to another amendment, let's throw it all in there. My opinion, not to take away from birthright citizenship, but simply that there wasn't a lot of thought put into them just trying to say, we got to get some things resolved here and quick. And while we're at it, let's get these other things put in here so people don't pay attention to what we're doing. Just my thought. No real reason for bringing that up other than the 14th Amendment here is very clear. Birthright. It's an amendment to our Constitution. But let's go back in the Wayback Machine. Let's go back to the Founding Fathers. And what did the Founding Fathers say? I did a little research here to give you some backup information. So when I give you my opinions later, and I go over some memes that I got, you're going to kind of go, oh, this is why he brought this up. I'm throwing a lot of stuff in here because I think it, not that that was meant to be confusing, but it shows that our current Congress and previous generations of Congress didn't do anything to fix the problems that were there. They haven't done anything other than delegate their authority to a bureaucratic state. And I may bring that up again, but I'm preparing you a little bit more. Here we go. The Founding Fathers had nuanced views on birthright citizenship, expressing concerns that automatic citizenship for children born on U.S. soil, particularly regarding foreign diplomats. Now, I want you to think about this. You're back there during the late 1700s, early 1800s, and people weren't necessarily, coming over here crossing the border. Instead, they were being born here, and we had to grow a nation. So the Founding Fathers, as you're going to hear about here in a second, were concerned about foreign nationals having children here and having the rights. And back then, they didn't enjoy the benefits of being an American citizen that illegal immigrants enjoy now. We'll go into that in a little bit. Founding Fathers' concerns. By the way, I got this off the internet. It was just a general search. Founding Fathers' concerns. The Founding Fathers were cautious about the implications of granting automatic citizenship to all individuals born in the United States. They were particularly concerned about children born to foreign diplomats. See, even back then, they were worried about the anchor babies. But because they recognized that foreign diplomats were going to use those birthrights to gain power over people in America. And remember, they just broke free from England, so they were really worried about the same people that they fought against getting control in here through birthright. Either way, they were particularly concerned about children born to foreign diplomats, as these individuals joined diplomatic immunity and were not subject to U.S. laws. The founders feared that extending citizenship to such children could create legal ambiguities and undermine national sovereignty. They addressed for a controlled process for granting citizenship, ensuring that new citizens had allegiance to the United States. Mind you, the founding fathers were not that far away as we are now from the times of Rome. The fall of Rome had a lot to do with immigration, not necessarily illegal immigration, but immigrants coming into their country, into their territories, and basically birthing them out, populating out Roman citizens, and being within, taking control of Rome from within. You see, history repeats itself. Legal framework established. The early legal framework for citizenship in the United States was influenced by English common law, which recognized the principles of jus soli, the right of the soil. However, the U.S. Constitution did not explicitly define citizenship, leaving room for interpretation. Here we come. The Naturalization Act of 1790 established the first legislative guidelines for citizenship, which primarily applied to free white persons and excluded various groups from citizenship. This act reflected the complexities surrounding automatic citizenship and the founders' intent to maintain a deliberate process for naturalization. Back then, they even recognized how important it was to have immigration laws, which is why they came up with the Naturalization Act. Now, when you look up the Naturalization Act of 1790, it was revised every few years, making the requirements to become a citizen having a longer period of time. It went from like 4 or 5 years all the way up to most like 18 years. I might be wrong by a year or two. Either way, they kept renewing the Naturalization Act every few years because once they realized the value of having an immigration system that was mandated by the Naturalization Act of 1790, which got revised every few years, they then realized that by that way they could have control of our immigration process. And then along comes the 14th Amendment. The issue of birthright citizenship gained prominence with the ratification of the 14th Amendment in 1868, which stated all persons, all born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States. This amendment clarified that children born on U.S. soil were considered citizens, but it also included the crucial phrase, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, which excluded children of foreign diplomats from automatic citizenship. This language echoed the founders' concerns and established a legal precedent that continues to influence discussions on citizenship today. Now, you might get the thought, as you hear me talk about this, that I may be arguing against a lot of people today that say, the 14th Amendment is the birthright citizenship is included in the 14th Amendment. You may be hearing me make that argument because I'm reading this and acknowledging that the 14th Amendment basically says birthright citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States. It's pretty undeniable there. Then, when you revert back to the bureaucratic system, which uses the Naturalization Act, and then, of course, later versions of it, which turned into our immigration system, where the requirements to become a citizen became, time requirements and having to do certain things. So people like to refer to the 14th Amendment and even the founding fathers who talked about birthright with the exclusion of foreign diplomats, which is how they came up with the Naturalization Act of 1790 to be able to put that under control. There is a component of our system where being born in America gives you a right to be a citizen. Now, I'm not advocating for birthright citizenship, especially for all people that are born here. I think that we should reinforce our immigration system, and I'm gonna go back into this in a minute. Our elected officials have abdicated, delegated their authority over the immigration system to the bureaucratic state, and they've just let it evolve. They've passed the buck, if you will, and they've just let the immigration system kind of take over, and they haven't done anything at all. And when you ask me why, in my opinion, because oftentimes it's for political reasons, or maybe they just kind of want to not be on the record for having anything to do with, I'm gonna say manipulating the system, because it looks bad on them. It's almost like voting against an ideology, or for a narrative, or for some social issue that's a hot topic. It's the same thing with citizenship. They like to stay away from it. They they need the illegal votes, right? They need the illegal immigration system, which I will bring back up here in a minute. Either way, over time, the concept of birthright citizenship has been debated and challenged, particularly in the context of immigration and the rights of children born to undocumented immigrants, and I'll bring this up in a few minutes. While the principles established by the founding fathers and the 14th Amendment remain foundational, modern discussions often revisit the implications of jurisdiction and the criteria for citizenship. Again, the founding fathers never really stated that they are against birthright citizenship, which is why they created the Naturalization Act to create laws to control it. But back then, let's face it, we needed people in America to build this country and be a part of it. So were the founding fathers actually against birthright citizenship in general? No, I don't think they were. My opinion. I do think they believed that there needed to be exceptions to protect America, particularly from foreign adversaries, as I pointed out just a minute ago. A little bit more groundwork, a few more things to go off of here. And by the way, don't forget about your MyPillow discounts at mypillow.com/WWFA. So I'm going to go into the 14th Amendment, why it was created. And then we're going to do some interesting things here. I got some notes and some memes and stuff like that, which I think you're going to appreciate. In my opinion, they bring up some things that we aren't talking about a lot right now. The 14th Amendment was created to grant citizenship and equal protection under the law to formally enslave people and to ensure that states could not infringe on these rights after the Civil War. So now we got strong debate that shows that the 14th Amendment, while it sounds kind of vague, granting citizenship to people born, naturalized citizens, the intent was for former slaves. But it doesn't say that, which is why it gets confusing, I believe, in the 14th Amendment, even when you start bringing in all the other things on who's got control of the money, and how congressmen are counted. They throw in that ominous bill language. See, they did it back then, which creates just enough confusion as a distraction. Not that they did it intentionally, but politicians aren't creating anything new these days. They've kind of done it this way forever. It's just the nature of politics. And no, I'm not excusing it. I'm simply saying it's a system that needs to be changed. Either way, the 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868, emerged during the Reconstruction era following the American Civil War. Its creation was a direct response to the emancipation of enslaved African Americans, and the need to secure their civil and legal rights in the face of resistance from Southern states. After the war, many Southern states enacted black codes, restrictive laws that limited the freedoms of black citizens and sought to maintain a system of racial hierarchy. Congress recognized that federal protection was necessary to guarantee the rights of newly freed individuals, hence the reason for the 14th Amendment and not simply birthright. So people who like to point to the 14th Amendment, because it says birthright, this is why people say, but we don't have birthright, because they point to the reasoning being because of the slavery issues. Problem we have now is we are trying to interpret what they set up a long time ago with the system that we have now and the things that are going on now. And I'm going back to, I know I'm saving a lot of things to go back to here in a few minutes, but you'll see why I'm stacking it up to go over later. I'm kind of setting the stage right now. Either way, key purposes was for citizenship of the 14th Amendment, that is. The amendment granted citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States, overturning the Supreme Court's Dred Scott versus Sanford 1857 decision, which had denied citizenship to African Americans. Equal protection, another purpose of the 14th Amendment. It required states to provide equal protection under the law to all citizens. Due process, the amendment prohibited states from depriving any person of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. Political accountability, it barred former Confederate officials from holding office unless Congress approved. Enforcement and representation was another reason for the purpose for the 14th Amendment. The amendment allowed the federal government to reduce a state's representation in Congress if it denied citizens the right to vote. Now, later, the 14th Amendment has been stretched to pertain to things like homosexuality rights and other rights that aren't, of course, mentioned in here. But just like the Constitution has been perverted or manipulated, the meaning manipulated in many ways to kind of squeeze out, to mold it to mean something else. Like I said, eminent domain they get from the Fifth Amendment, which if you read it has nothing to do with personal property rights except as it pertains to not incriminating yourself. But somehow or another, they've gotten out of it the takings clause, giving government the right to take your property. Oh, yeah. If they recoup your money or pay you back properly, but that's a whole other story. Getting ripped off by the government. Either way, were our rights ripped off with the 14th Amendment? Were they added in the 14th Amendment? Or were they simply not made clear? Because back then, even during the 14th Amendment, they did not have the problems that we have today, which, yet another thing I'm going to stack up on things that we have to worry about today that they did not have to worry about here in 1790 during the 14th Amendment. Especially, they didn't have to worry about during the 1790 Naturalization Act. Things that we have to worry about now were not done back then. By the way, don't forget about rncstore.com. I read a book recently called Dead Doctors Don't Lie by James Wallach. I highly recommend it. It was written back in 1980, I think it was, or in the 70s, or pertained to the 70s, written in the 80s. Either way, he talks about taking your own health in your own control. By the way, back to the Constitution, medical freedom was something that one of our founding fathers, another Benjamin Rush, wanted in our Constitution, but we didn't get. We need it now, and the best way to take control of your own health. Dr. Wallach, by the way, recommends Laetrile as prevention for some of the diseases that Laetrile is found in apricot seeds, which you can get at rncstore.com/WWFA to get yourself a discount. Now, back to some of my notes. Either way, the founding fathers' sentiments were birthright is something natural. You're naturally going to have people born in America from people that lived in America, and they wanted them to stay in America because that's how we built our country. They simply were worried about the foreign nationals, which was a reason why they created the Naturalization Act, was to be able to put the reins on the people who might be coming here with nefarious purposes. But back then they didn't have birth certificates, and or they didn't have birth certificate businesses either designed to get citizenship, which I'm going to go into in a minute, which is birth tourism, which they didn't have back then, which we have now. The 14th Amendment, like I said, was like another ominous bill. I don't think the founding fathers were really worried about people who immigrated here legally having children and having birthright. The country needed people, but they were suspect of the foreign nationals, which today we have those same worries on steroids. There are many reasons we need to have our immigration system fixed. What are the problems with it, and who is responsible? The broken system is being used by millions for many nefarious purposes, including birth tourism. Today, we have millions of illegals scamming the system, abusing federal money that could help U.S. citizens, and coming here just to get birth certificates, which will be used at a later date to either get more of our benefits, many of which their own countries don't have, or to come here later and vote us out of existence. And that is not some wild, harebrained thought, by the way. So, birth tourism, which is happening today in America, that they did not have back then, which is another reason why we need to overhaul our immigration system now. It's why we need to stop anchor babies now. It's why we need to say, hey, look, these things are going on. And this is the reason why, even if the founding fathers did believe in birthright citizenship, even if the 14th Amendment pertained to birthright citizenship outside of giving African Americans their rights, even if that's to be true, we need to say, okay, we need to evolve our immigration system to catch up with the times, to catch up with things that are happening now in America that have been designed to hurt our country using the 14th Amendment. There are things going on in America right now that are designed to give immigrants access to our system using birthright citizenship, and one of them is via birth tourism. U.S. birth tourism in 2026. This is an article by it just says Makina, and it is in Makina.com. Either way, it's just a definition. It's nothing that you have to worry about the facts on. U.S. birth tourism in 2026, a comprehensive guide to new laws, cost, and risk. U.S. birth tourism given birth as a visa holder, including the legality, benefit, cost, risk, and tips. What is birth tourism? Birth tourism refers to pregnant foreign nationals traveling to the U.S. on temporary visitors visas, HB1s or B2s, with the specific intent of giving birth on American soil under the 14th Amendment. Children born in the U.S. automatically acquire citizenship. So basically, there are businesses that have hotels with birthing centers in them, and people pay from, they live in foreign countries, pay to come here and have a baby in those hotels at their birthing center. So their baby has an American birth certificate. And many speculate what the reasons are for. I think it's for nefarious purposes. Either way, I have not only been reading more and more about this, it's a fact. There's way too much information about there with it. I know people in the baby business, in the gynecology, OBGYN industry, and they are telling me themselves that there are women that are coming here, can't even speak English, about to drop a baby, and actually, in some cases, have Medicaid. They're getting free health care paid for by U.S. citizens. They can't speak English, and they are doing this, and they're having these babies at the birthing centers, or they're just dropping the illegal babies, getting their anchor baby citizenship, and they're going back to their country. Either way, global mobility, a U.S. passport. So this is the reasons for birth tourism, by the way. A U.S. passport offers visa-free access to over 180 countries. Education, access to domestic tuition rates at world-class American universities. The 21-year plan is the ability for the child to sponsor parents for a green card once they reach age 21. The current legal status as of 2026, birthright citizenship is still active. It is still currently being challenged in the U.S. Supreme Court case. Is it legal? Is it illegal? Is it legal to give birth on a visitor visa? Technically, it is not a crime to give birth while in the U.S. on a visa. However, the U.S. Department of State explicitly directs consular offices to deny visas if they suspect the primary purpose of travel is birth tourism. It is a thing, and it is something that our founding fathers were not faced with, and it is something that the elected officials during 1790, when they created the Naturalization Act, were not faced with. And it is definitely something that the politicians who were around in the creation of the 14th Amendment did not have to face. We have to face it today, which is yet another reason we need to work on our immigration system today and end the concept of birthright citizenship. Even though naturalization is in the 14th Amendment, technically you could say it's a right, we need to do something and work through our immigration process. We need to work through our immigration system to do this. And the only way to do that is to motivate our elected officials who don't want to do anything. Part of the reason why our elected officials stay in power is because they, again, delegate their authority to the bureaucratic state, which gives them the ability to skate and get away without having to make the tough decisions. They don't want to be on the record for ending birthright citizenship and being called unconstitutional, even though the case can be made that there are way more things going on today that the people during the 14th Amendment did have to face with, or 1790. Politicians today are way too lazy to do the right thing because they don't want to face the court of public opinion when it comes to doing the right thing. I'm going to touch base on that again in a minute. I know I'm bringing things back up later because there's so many times it's intertwined with multiple things that are going on. Today, we have millions of illegals scamming the system, abusing federal money that could help U.S. citizens, and coming here just to get birth certificates, which will be used either to get more of our benefits later, many of which our countries don't have. I know I told you this already, but they will use this for nefarious purposes later in our elections. Meanwhile, there are many in this country that see this process of birthright citizenship to people from other countries that don't value the greatness of America. There are people here that see illegal immigrants as pawns. They see them as people that they can corral into their narratives for many reasons, to be able to use them as foot soldiers to further their agendas that are anti-American. Or even if they're pro-American, but maybe they're just to get their ideologies included in our constitutional rights. I'm taking a deep breath here because the majority of the people coming here would rather side with a pro-government. So a lot of these people from these other countries are coming here to side with a pro-government or anti-American sentimentality to help build up their side. Most immigrants are coming from countries where corruption, less civil order, and strong armed governments are the norm, which holds people down in poverty, which aligns precisely where government wants people to be: controlled, dependent on social programs and assistance, and people who are more comfortable with government control than freedom. That's the type of people our government wants in here, and that's the type of people that are coming from these third world countries that we're getting huge influxes from, but especially the kind of people they don't want people that will prosper with freedom. They don't want people that want freedom and appreciate freedom. They want these people coming from these third world countries because they know they are not willing to fight or crave true freedom. Politicians created bureaucracies to control immigration. They themselves have delegated their responsibility to the bureaucratic state of the government. I want to go backwards for a second here, just a minute, and I want to tell you about how many people. I want to go back to birthright citizenship. Before I get too far away from birthright citizenship, estimates suggest that between 20,000 and 70,000 babies are born each year to U.S. birth tourists. I want you to think about that. A lot of these people go back to their countries. Oh, so we're not going to have to face them until 21 more years. Either way, they still get those children still get access to U.S. benefits. And later, those children are going to be able to bring in multiples of people that committed the crime of birth tourism in the first place. Yet another reason that we have to not only end birthright tourism, we have to end the anchor baby thing and tackle it from many different sides. And we can't just say, no more anchor babies, because it's 14th Amendment type stuff, which isn't clear enough. And because our immigration system needs to be overhauled, there's nothing in our immigration system that supersedes the words of the 14th Amendment. So this ambiguity only creates a path for people with nefarious purposes. Politicians could have fixed it, but they didn't, because depending on who was in office, the agenda at the time, or what the popular topic is for them to get reelected, they have left it unbroken, I believe, intentionally. Leave it up to the bureaucratic state to work it out and fix it, which never happens and only makes that agency bigger. Aha. Giving elected officials more of a scapegoat or more of an excuse, but also at the same way, giving many politicians the excuse to grow government. Our immigration system is broken, not just because we have been flooded by illegals and because we're being used for political purposes, but because the politicians don't want to fix it. Sure, it can be said that Democrats want the votes for whatever reasons they used illegal immigrants for, whether it's to win elections or to just grow in numbers. They can say Republicans want the cheap labor, but yet so do the Democrats, by the way. And many people will say, those illegal immigrants just want a better life. Let them be. But they let it stay broken because a broken, disorganized system is easier to take advantage of, like we have seen in Minnesota, and multiple and multiple and multiple of other examples of illegal immigration being used to scam the system, circumvent money, funnel money, launder it. However they're doing, it's all about staying in control. And they, as a result, haven't fixed it yet. And with the illegals getting benefits from the government, of course those illegals want a, quote, better life. America has the freebies and their country they came from doesn't. By the way, don't miss your target when you use XS Sites. Go to xssites.com and you'll never miss your target at night again. I wish I would have had them when I got carjacked. Go to xssites.com. And back here onto what I've got. I take a deep breath because it's just perplexing that people are now that immigration is being brought up again and the 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship is being brought up. People are just now being made aware that, oh, our system is broken. I never thought of it like that. That's the reason why I'm bringing up all these things to think about. This is how we got Obamacare. Republicans knew the Democrats wanted control of the healthcare system, and they did nothing to fix it. They were chasing the shiny objects like social issues instead of getting legislation out there to fix our healthcare system. Make it better, make it more affordable, fix the things that were broken, and get credit for it. But Republicans kept kicking the can down the road, even though they knew that behind the scenes, the Democrats, obviously because they wanted to expand Medicaid, Medicare, and social programs, they wanted control of the healthcare system. Obamacare didn't just come out of, it wasn't thought of overnight. It was pulled out of file drawers that had been getting added to through the years because the Democrats wanted, they didn't just write all that silly stuff that's in those, 20,000, 2,000 pages of Obamacare overnight. They had been saving it. And the Republicans knew this. People in Congress knew this. But it was easier to kick the can down the road, let the broken system cause enough chaos to make elected officials always needed to, quote, fix the problem. Again, I'm Republican. I love my party. But I think that there are people in the party that are not doing the right thing because they stay in power or raise more money by not fixing what's broken. Meanwhile, the Democrats break stuff and get away with stuff. And again, that's how we got Obamacare. When Republicans were in majorities several times, they didn't do anything to get it. When the Democrats got the majority, they rammed it down our throat. Because Republicans were chasing the shiny objects. And instead of putting the Democrats on their heels like the Democrats did to us, or like the Democrats did to America when they rammed Obamacare through, costing billions more in healthcare cost. If we don't fix the immigration system now, just like Obamacare, illegal immigration will cost us more. I realize the way I say that sounds like I'm comparing the two. Just like Obamacare cost us billions because they didn't fix it when it needed to be fixed a long time ago, and then you get a party in power that doesn't really care to fix it. They want to fix it for control. The same thing is going to happen to illegal immigration. It's going to cost us a lot more down the road because we're not trying to fix it now. The narratives are too great. birthright. Instead of, they're lazy. We have to fix the 14th Amendment to make it resemble what's going on in America today, like the reflection of birth tourism, or to reflect all of the illegal immigration that we have, to reflect all the anchor babies that are happening today. But let's double, triple, quadruple down on this thought. America is $40 trillion in debt. And you can look at the billions of dollars of fraud that has happened because of our broken immigration system. That alone is reason to overhaul our immigration system and make it reflective of what is happening today. You don't have to repeal the 14th Amendment. You just have to go to work on the immigration system and fix it from within, fix it in the bureaucratic state to override the 14th Amendment. And that can be done. That actually would be easier to do than trying to repeal the 14th Amendment, because getting constitutional convention or enough politicians, enough states probably will not ever happen. So how do we fix it? Not necessarily end it. Birthright citizenship is what I'm referring to, because the founders did address it. We can fix it through the immigration process or laws within our bureaucratic state. Again, you don't have to end it in the 14th Amendment. You can just strengthen the rules in the immigration system. But I personally think that we need to end the birthright chain the minute illegal actions have taken place, like illegal immigration. So if an illegal immigrant comes here illegally, which is, I don't know, the same, and they have an anchor baby can't get birthright citizenship because of the crimes of their father. I know, I've heard this before. We can't hold children accountable for the crimes of their parents. I get it. But as it pertains to what's going on in our country today, birth tourism, illegal immigration, anchor babies, yada, or whatever going on and on, we need to fix and make it. Now, you can backslap them with one hand, proverbially speaking, but you can say, look, if you do this ahead of time or you do this after you've committed this crime, you can have a shot at redemption. We have to have something in place. But I think we need to end the birthright chain the minute illegal actions take place. Also, criminal activities, in addition to illegal immigration, because all the illegal immigrants that we have that are committing all the crimes. So when someone comes here illegally and has a child, the child does not get automatic naturalized citizenship. Their country of the citizenship of their parent, or the country of their citizenship, should be marked the same as their parents. Our founding fathers were cautious for a reason, as I pointed out in the beginning, but they did not have the problems that we have to this extent. Yes, our country at the time needed more people, so it was not a huge issue for them to give birthright citizenship. But the reasons they were worried about with foreign diplomats is because of the possibility of future problems of some of the ones that come over here with that having influence. And that is mirroring what we have going on today. But now we have worse problems that comes with birthright, which has been supercharged. The problem with birthright citizenship has been supercharged with all of the illegal immigration. Before, there were all the benefits that someone can get now from our government or having a U.S. birth certificate. And I need you to think about that. We need to fix the system, especially for the people who want to come here and be Americans and assimilate and contribute and not drain the system or milk our government for the goodies. Because of illegal immigration, birth tourism, our national debt. I'm going to pause on that and think about that. It's getting proven right now as we expose all of the fraud that a lot of our national debt is because of fraud. And when you look at all, and you can look at the timeline of how much more debt we've gone into in just the last, 6, 8, 10 years, and look at the numbers of illegal immigration that have increased during that same time frame. And while some of it may be a coincidence, I don't think it's all a coincidence that our national debt is going up at the same time illegal immigration is going up. And we are now seeing all of the fraud getting exposed. Birth tourism, our national debt is a reason, and because of birth tourism and our national debt, that's a reason itself to fix the system. The corruption in the system, the tentacles from the corruption is reaching every social program, every bureaucratic agency, even our local governments. It's draining our system. The attacks on our voting system alone from illegal immigration, the money being robbed from all the Americans, especially from the Americans that need our social programs, our veterans, for example. These are all reasons we need to fix our immigration system and end birthright citizenship because of what's going on today. Now, and if the founding fathers did not have a stance on birthright, we need to now. I'm going to repeat. Our founding fathers did not have much of a stance on birthright citizenship then, only particularly as it pertained to foreign nationals. We need to pick up the ball today because we have bigger issues today, especially pertaining to the foreign nationals and foreign invaders and illegal immigrants. And while our founding fathers may not have had much to say about birthright citizenship then, or it wasn't considered heavily in the creation of our 14th Amendment, we need to reflect today's times on what's going on today that's affecting our country financially and what will happen to it in the future if we don't bring in people that want to assimilate and be Americans. We have to recognize that our need for population growth is different today from when our founding fathers were around. We need to realize that our resources to help others in peril right now, or in my opinion, ignore the founding fathers or the creators of the 14th Amendment and overhaul our immigration system in a way that takes care of the illegal immigration aspect or the birth tourism aspect, which is a huge problem. I know I'm on a roll right now. And again, before I continue, please don't forget about Patriot Mobile. I am going to show you for my video people. Yeah, I'm going to do some memes. They're not lazy. They are some things that are like factoids, informational infographics, if you will. So if you're watching the video, you get to see them. If you're listening to the podcast, you get to hear them. Because I believe that a lot of these things that I pulled off of social media make a lot of not only make a lot of impact on some things I've been saying, but they make a lot of really good points in addition to. A Chinese billionaire, these are all like little mini news stories. So again, some of these me, and I fact check these, by the way. So I do go through and I fact checked all these infographics that I get. So they're just short facts instead of reading you the story. A Chinese billionaire has fathered more than 100 babies through multiple U.S. surrogates, and every single one was born here with full American citizenship. The infants were immediately sent back to China, period. And in the opinion of this article, those children will be raised and indoctrinated by the Chinese Communist Party. Either way, they're going to be brought back to China until it's convenient to bring them here to get either the benefits of a U.S. citizen or, again, they'll have dual citizenship. This is all intentional. This is happening in our country. And if you don't believe me, look it up. My job is not to indoctrinate you or make you say, yeah, William said it's got to be right. My job, I believe, is to bring you information that I am looking at and finding that I'm not seeing being talked about all the time. Yeah, bring up a lot of stuff that's being talked about regularly, but I want to bring you new information to open your eyes, not, excuse me, indoctrinate you, but to simply open your eyes. Next infographic up. In the next decade, over 1 million Chinese communists will be able to vote in American elections. Anchor babies, you heard me. Thanks to birth tourism, Chinese billionaires are paying surrogates to birth their children on U.S. soil, so the babies are American citizens. The children are taken back to China after birth, raised as communists. Then, when they're 18, they're allowed to vote in U.S. elections. That is why birthright citizenship must end. I know there's a lot of similarities to the last infographic, and I got a couple minor duplicates. Either way, some of them bring up another piece of information. So you got to listen. Next infographic by Brandon Gill, congressman from Texas. He says, ending birthright citizenship for illegal aliens would remove one of the largest drivers of illegal immigration to our country. Without the shiny object of birth tourism, you would see it end almost overnight. Democrats are freaking out about this because they not only want illegal immigration, but the future of their party depends on illegal immigration. Like I said, the people that they're bringing in from these third world countries, communist countries like China, or even countries like the Middle East, those people are coming from mostly lawless countries that have little freedom, that don't have the freedom that we have in America or the structure that we have in America. So they come here and it'll be easier to change our country to a more socialist country with people like that on board. It's all part of their master plan. My next infographic from a person C3 on X. Dems can no longer hide it. Illegals are voting. Illegals are stealing billions. Illegals are receiving benefits. Illegals are committing crimes. Illegals are influencing House seat counts through the census, by the way. That's how they do that. Illegals are changing electoral college numbers. Claiming they're not is a lie. And my next infographic up here is from Real Khalil. It's something on X again. House SCOTUS should decide this birthright citizenship case. The Constitution delegates to Congress the authority to determine the uniform rules of naturalization. It's in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4. It is not proper for the POTUS to define terms via executive order, Administrative Procedural Act. The reason I brought this up, because a lot of people are saying Donald Trump does not have the authority to end birthright citizenship. It's the Supreme Court on this. There's a whole bunch of other things on this. Problem is, Congress isn't doing its job to fix our immigration system. Does that mean the president should have the authority to do what he's doing? Maybe, maybe not. But in this case, it's more of a strategy, in my opinion, that you do this, it's going to cause enough of a ruckus that congressmen, elected or other elected officials, are going to have to do something to fix it, or else the chaos will work in the favor of America and its future, which is the exact same thing that Democrats don't want. Number 3 in this meme, if you're watching the video, you've probably already read it. It is not proper for SCOTUS to define terms via court opinion, separation of powers. Again, I've talked about this before. Precedent, I think it is. It's time to stop expecting other departments to compensate for the colossal failure of our members of Congress. Liberty over security, principle over party, truth over personality. The reason I brought this infographic up is because it goes in a few directions, which a couple of them don't align with giving this president the wink and the nod to do the executive order. I tend to agree that our president should not have to take action. Our lazy Congress should have done it a long time ago. But once again, it's easier for them to get into the ideological warfare to win on social issues because that gets votes and raises money instead of simply doing your job to reform our immigration system and demand that our immigration department enforce it. Bill Clinton signed mass deportation law in 1996. 2 months later, 85% of Democrats voted to reelect him. Today, many people protest right against the laws their party passed. My point for bringing up this infographic and a couple other ones talks about how the Democrats were against illegal immigration way back and spoke out against illegal immigration. But of course, they flip. I know they've evolved. We need to evolve our immigration system while we're in power, not just to favor Republican ideas on immigration, but to reflect American citizens who not only want an immigration system that works properly for our country, but also a voting system that works properly for our country. Oh, I thought I'd sneak in a plug for the SAVE Act. This 1993 clip of Democrat Senator Harry Reid filing to abolish birthright citizenship for illegal aliens has gone viral. What changed Democrats? That was posted by Dinesh D'Souza recently, but it goes in. There's actually a video that came along with that. Of course, I'm not going to play the video. Either way, the next infographic up is Chuck Schumer. The ultimate goal is to get a path to citizenship for all 11 million or however many undocumented that are here. They don't even have a clue. Again, they're telling us exactly what they're doing. I get it. Their way to fix it is just make everybody legal because they are banking on those people that get automatic citizenship being a group that votes with them because those people are getting the goodies that they didn't get before, and they don't recognize what it's like to be a free American. They don't know the beauty of America. They get a sense of it because they're here and they're free and they're wandering around, they're safe, they're enjoying everything in our country. But they don't truly appreciate it because they come from a country, usually in South America, Middle East, where they've been somewhat oppressed, not allowed to live to their fullest potential. And they come here to America and they get that. And they're blinded by that freedom, and they don't see that the narratives, ideologies, the Democrat Party that's using them, and I don't mean all Democrats. I'm going to repeat this over and over again, by the way, in the future. It's not all Democrats. It's really just the extreme left of the Democrats. They're not even really Democrats. They're really just people who are leftist, ideologically against America, want socialism. They want policies that control people and control the money. It's really, and I'm not going down that rabbit hole right now. It's kind of a deeper dive, but I'm just kind of generalizing right now for the reason it. I would say then and contend that most people that vote Democrat aren't even leftists. They're just people that are one issue voters on issues that align with something that is slightly left of center, or people that just do not like Trump or do not like some of the issues on the right that Republicans or people on the right tend to be overzealous about, like pro-life. They're like, oh, those people want to take away our women's rights. So they don't try to find how to solve the problem. Instead, they just vote against Republicans 100% of the time. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I get their beliefs. But what I'm saying is a lot of illegal immigrants are being brought into this battle without realizing that they're being used as pawns for their numbers to push the agenda. And the far left extremists have divided up everybody on the left into these little groups for the purpose of not only division, but of control. And all of this, as you might go, where are you going with this? How's that pertain to birthright citizenship? Because the more numbers they bring in that they can convince to be on their side, or people that are easy to convince that that's where their benefits are coming from, are going to be the same people that those numbers are used to defeat Republicans, conservative-minded people, Christians, America-loving people, and not only the midterms, but future elections. So you might be saying, if you're on the left, you see, you're just coming up with a plan of action to win and only win and take out Americans, or take out, to promote your conservative, right-wing Republican agenda. Not at all. I believe the future of our country is going to lie with bringing more people together on American values through legal immigration. Because if you allow people to come here from breaking the law, they're never going to respect America. It's common sense. I get it. Problem is between people on the left, many of those one issue voters, friends of mine, I got many friends over on that side that will argue women's rights over the future of America. They are going to argue a welfare system that illegals are taking advantage of over values that make more Americans prosperous. And as a result, the division in our country is going to ignore, or because of the division in our country, the reform of citizenship is just going to get ignored. And we have to recognize this as not only the reason why we have to repeal, replace, reform things that are in the 14th Amendment and do it through our immigration system and demand that our elected officials get their arses back to work and do the things that we need them to do to protect our citizenship. If you haven't gone to mypillow.com, you can use that promo code WWFA for discounts at mypillow.com. I brought this infographic up because I just want to show that the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, controls citizenship and immigration in the United States, specifically a sub-agency of the Department of Homeland Security, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, is responsible for processing immigration and naturalization applications, as well as administering the country's naturalization and immigration system. I'm just confused just reading the description of that agency or sub-agency or whatever it is. But again, just like our country wants unhealthy people, like I said, they've processed our foods, pharmaceutical companies, pills, all that other stuff are easier than just being healthy. Government doesn't want healthy people, citizens, because unhealthy, fat people that don't care about their health are complacent and don't worry about their future or their freedoms. Same as our immigration system. When it's broken and confusing, people won't fight for it because they don't know what to fight for. Well, we got the 14th Amendment. We're told that's birthright citizenship. I'm going back to bed. It's already there. Our immigration system takes care of this. My job, again, like I said, is to wake up more people to where the problems are so you can be not only more informed and get involved, but get other people involved to get our elected officials off their arses and fix our system. Because when we have a country like I'm showing in this next meme, where we have an old lady at the checkout counter buying the basics, milk, meat, bread, when retired taxpayers, when American citizens, disabled, veterans, retired people, our elderly are not getting nearly as much as an illegal immigrant does on the welfare system. And an illegal immigrant, as in you'll see this infographic if you're watching a video, has a basket full of groceries. And the old lady in front has like 4 things. Yeah, it's an infographic. Yeah, maybe it's a little tiny bit of a stretch, but not much. It's being proven that illegal immigrants, today's times, are getting more in not only benefits, but off of the fraud that they're involved for, and that they're being used by Democrats, being proven right now by what's happening in Minnesota and around the country. They're getting way more than citizens. This is yet another reason to reform our system and get rid of birthright citizenship or the things that are evolving around it, like birth tourism. Next infographic up shows a crowd of people in the background. Just a stat for you. In 2023, 9% of all U.S. births came from undocumented work immigrants and temporary visa workers. The more I learn about the 14th Amendment, the more I realize it was only a Reconstruction document to protect former slaves. Probably should have put this in earlier, but like I said, the 14th Amendment, as I've read, as I've studied and found out the history of it, was about Reconstruction and citizenship for African Americans. It was not just to be willy-nilly. Their fault. for not clarifying it, which, like I showed you, when you read the 14th Amendment, it's more like an ominous bill and has a lot of other things in there that don't pertain to immigration. Confusion on purpose, or is it just politics? Picture of Congress. Automatic deportation for illegals caught on welfare fraud passes. Automatic deportation for illegals caught on welfare fraud passes 231 to 186. So 186 Democrats voted to keep your money funding the invasion. Just making my point, like I said earlier, on how they want to use illegal immigration against us. And the last infographic I have up, should have put this one up earlier, reflected an earlier thought that I had. 2 illegal aliens having a baby should not produce an American citizen. It should produce 3 deported illegal aliens. The point I made earlier was not as strong as this, but I'm going to kind of amend a little bit to kind of round the edges off. Birthright citizenship should end every single time there is an illegal action taken. Sure, some will say we should not be held accountable for the sins of our fathers. I understand. But in the case of what's going on in our country right now with illegal immigration, birthright citizenship being used for nefarious purposes, we need to fix this. So whether when when this happens to undocumented or illegal immigrants produce a child, maybe it's not to deport them. Maybe it is to make their process longer. Maybe, definitely, they should not be eligible for American benefits that American citizens who have been abiding the law and living in America legally, it should not take away from them at all whatsoever. That, my friends, is the end of this episode. But before you leave me, a few parting thoughts. Let your congressman know they're lazy if they don't fix this immigration system. Get involved. Don't be anti the ending of birthright just because it was a Trump idea. Be aware that sometimes people that we don't like actually have some good ideas. And I believe that birthright citizenship should be ended. At the very least, our immigration system should be overhauled in a way to reflect legal immigrants that are having children here should get birthright just like Americans do. You're Americans, you have a child, you have essentially birthright citizenship. I get it. But we're here legally. We should fix it to control it easier so we don't keep taking benefits away from Americans. So we don't dilute our country. We don't dilute the greatness of our country with people who are here for the freebies. We need to fix this problem so that way we can promote a legal immigration system where people can come here and assimilate. Our country will prosper as a result. Please, my friends, share this interview. Share this episode with somebody else. Point to it. Say, hey, just listen to this guy. I'd appreciate it. I would be grateful if you did. And I'm grateful that you spent the time with me. Once again, go visit patriotmobile.com/WWFA. Don't forget about RNC Store and My Pillow. And I will join with you next soon on my next episode. Have a great day, and God bless America.